We are quite unique, 85% EAL, 40% asylum seekers, refugees. Probably the most diverse school you will find outside inner city London. Really, really amazing place to work. And everything we do in my school has to be about making the most of what we have in front of us and doing the best for the young people that we have. And that's the same for everybody in this room. I'm going to talk to you, have a read of that. Hilarious. I had a lot of fun researching memes. I promise the whole presentation is not memes. But I think it's really, really important that we start the day with a little bit of joy. Lord Byron, marvellous. This is the one my year 11s liked the most this year. Lord Byron, who's the guy who bought a bear? Bought a bear to Cambridge. I'm like, yes, but I'm pretty sure you can't get that into your exam, so it's all they remember. I'm glad you're finding these funny, because I showed these to my husband, who's a musician, and he was like, I don't think this is funny. I promise this is the last one. Now, the reason I'm showing you these is that I would say a lot of people in this room, almost 100% of the people in this room, understand why those memes are funny. Yeah, I would say that. The majority of us, I reckon, have probably got English degrees. Some of us won't, but we're all English teachers. We're all in that kind of world. So we have a shared understanding of that stuff, and that's powerful, and it feels good to laugh with lots of other people, doesn't it? Feels good to laugh and be like, we're all so clever. Oh my God. We just get this Shakespeare jokes, and it's not just that it's funny, it's that we get it and not a lot of other people would get it, so it feels quite special. How many of the parents of our children would have got those jokes? How many of them might have sat in this room and felt a bit stupid? Because we're all laughing and it's great. How many of our actual students would have got those jokes? I think it's really, really important. So I know I've just put a right downer on the whole situation. But we are privileged with an insider knowledge. And we have to remember that all the time. We have an insider knowledge that's like this little cliquey special thing that makes us feel really clever. And other people can't access that world because they don't have that knowledge, and that's really important. I'm going to talk a little bit about cultural capital, because cultural capital it's not just a buzzword, it's not just something that people are saying, we're talking about cultural capital now, but it'll disappear, it's like solar taxonomy or something. No, it's not. It's something that actually matters. And something that's so important about literature is that it has the power to grow people and develop them and develop their humanity and make them feel like part of the global community, but it also has the power to make them feel small and inadequate. Makes them feel like they don't belong to something. There's like a secret club that they don't have access to. And it's really, really important. That's important because things like what Boris Johnson did in Myanmar recently, where he, for anyone who's not aware of what happened, he was standing at a really, really sacred religious site where years and years ago the British Empire massacred a lot of native people. He stood next to a massive statue of the Buddha and started reciting a Kipling poem that was horrendously insensitive and quite racist. The vast majority of people in this country don't understand that that's racist. It's like the memes. They don't understand the significance of that. They don't understand the significance of a British white politician from Eton reciting a poem about the greatness of the British Empire and how great our soldiers were at the site of one of the greatest atrocities of the British Empire. Most people don't get it, and therefore most people don't understand how awful this man is. I don't like to get political, but sometimes you've got to get political, right? And the point is, cultural capital is not just about, do they get Shakespeare? Can they access their GCSEs? It's about, do these people feel enfranchised in society? Do they feel able to engage with politics? Do they feel able to understand the realities of what's going on in the world around them? Because if these people that we send out of our schools and we say, you're finished, well done, off you go, if they can't engage with realities like this, then they're making ill-informed judgments at the polling station. They're making ill-informed judgments when they hear things being said down the pub that are perhaps really unpleasant and they don't really understand why. So cultural capital is not just about teaching kids about Bible stories so they can access Shakespeare. It's about teaching children how to be part of that global understanding, okay? So Boris Johnson understands that that poem is horrendous, but he's got the privileged position of being able to stand there and kind of do what he wants, because nobody understands, because they're all poor people who don't get it. So, going to talk a little bit about kind of the research in a really, really quick way. And I like to do it in like the speak that I would use with my students, because I like to explain complicated things to them, because why not? My kids understand lots and lots of important education theory, because I like to say, here's the research about like long-term memory and the forgetting curve, and you can understand it, and now you're going to know why I'm doing this in my lessons. So I like to explain things to them. So, cultural capital. E.D. Hirsch, probably the best thing you can read. I would recommend that you just read the first chapter, because the rest of it's a bit weedy and you don't really need it. The first chapter, read that. You don't have a lot of time, just read the first chapter. So, to be culturally literate is to possess the basic information needed to thrive in the modern world, like understanding what Boris Johnson did. So, people need to know stuff in order to function and succeed in the world. Okay, we would all agree with that. People who don't know the stuff are naturally disenfranchised. Because they can't fully engage with the world around them or understand the full meaning of things they hear, the things they read, the things they see, okay? Society, this is really important. In order for society to function, it needs people who can function in society. If, as a society, we only have a certain number of people who are an elite group who understand all this stuff, then the rest of the people in society can't engage, and therefore they can't contribute, they can't move things forward, and that's really, really difficult, okay? Every society or national group has slightly different stuff, and that begins to contribute to a sense of national identity and heritage. So, for example, in Japan, the cultural literacy that a child needs growing up in Japan is slightly different to the cultural literacy they would need in Britain. So there are things that a British child will know, or we would hope a British child will know. So my son is he'll be 3 tomorrow. How did that happen? But he'll be 3 tomorrow, and he's already starting to understand, because I'm a medievalist and I'm a massive King Arthur geek, right? It's called Arthur, clue. And he's already starting to understand things about sword fighting and about honour and nobility and about like King Arthur and stories about monsters, and he likes to say questing beast, because it's one of his stories. Mummy, it's a questing beast under my bed. Strange boy. But he has a sense of that kind of British cultural heritage. In Japan, there's a fabled monster called Ushi-Oni, which Japanese children, it's like a big crab monster beast, it's actually terrifying. But that's a thing, that's a part of cultural literacy that children in Japan will grow up with. It's different to what children in this country grow up with, and it constitutes part of our national identity, it constitutes who we are. So if you don't know that stuff, feeling British and idea of what it is to be British is harder. Now obviously it's very controversial to decide what that stuff is and what being British is at all, and let's not get into that right now, come to my session later. But the other thing is that children don't learn this stuff enough by osmosis, and that's really important. So for a very, very long time, people believed that children, so like if anyone's familiar with the work of Rousseau, who Hirsch was basically responding to and saying it's all nonsense. Rousseau basically said children shouldn't be bothered with difficult stuff, they should just be allowed to be children for as long as they possibly can be. But what that means is we don't go, you need to know this and this and this and this and this, and therefore children grow up not knowing all those things. You don't learn that stuff by osmosis, you learn that stuff by someone going, here's some stuff they really need to know, so we're going to explicitly teach that stuff, here's a plan to teach the stuff. And that's absolutely crucial, okay? So, next thing that's really important is opportunity, access, information, habit. It's not good enough to just say, we're going to teach this stuff, or we're going to give these opportunities. So, how many opportunities are there for a person to access cultural experiences? How easy is it for them to access those experiences? So, how much will it cost them to get there? Leeds, I'm from Leeds, and we have an amazing cultural space in Leeds. We've got theatres, we've got like non-school contemporary dance, we've got loads of amazing stuff going on. But it costs a lot of money to go to the Grand and see a show. It costs a fortune. It's prohibitive. Travel, accessibility, knowledge. Do you even know that stuff's on? Like, it's all well and good the Phoenix Dance Theatre putting on an amazing production about the Windrush. It was outrageous, like my family in the Caribbean, it was absolutely amazing. I cried the whole way through. But I knew about it because I look at like what's on the Leeds list and I like check up and I don't want to miss anything. But loads of families don't have that knowledge, they don't know where to look for stuff. How inclined are they to access these experiences? And this is really important. Do they feel like it's for them? Do they look at something and say, yeah, that's something that's been designed for me to access?
how comfortable do they feel accessing it? I think this is really important. So I sing, I had a choral scholarship at Oxford, which was amazing for like a girl from Chapeltown who had been singing in gospel church my entire life, got into a choral scholarship, crazy. So I do quite a lot of classical singing now. My mum at Easter came to see me sing Handel's Messiah, and I was singing the solos in a gown. It was well amazing. But my mum is like a black woman with amazing hair, obviously. She's basically supremely intelligent, has a history degree from Leeds University, really clever woman. But I have to remind her when she comes to concerts that you don't clap in between movements in classical music, you have to clap at the end. And she sits there, no matter how many times she's been, and she's like looking at me like, and she's so clever, and there's no reason why she should feel like she doesn't belong in that space, but she feels really uncomfortable in those spaces. I kind of have to drag her along. And it's not because she's not clever, it's not because she doesn't enjoy it, because she does, it's because she doesn't feel that that space is for her. She's the only black person in that room, and that's hard. It's really hard. And we have to think about that as well. And do they belong to a cultural group that is in the habit of frequenting cultural and artistic events of that kind? So, will you walk into that space and everyone look at you and say, oh, isn't it great you're here? How patronising is that? You don't want to go to the theatre and feel like everyone's like, oh great, we've got someone from one of these underrepresented communities. You don't feel like that, that's outrageous. And that's really hard. How do we tackle that? So schools need to recognise that schools are intimidating cultural spaces for some people. Like, we have a significantly high proportion of Roma Gypsy in my school. So in Year 7 this year, 40% of Year 7 are Roma Gypsy, which if anyone works with the GRT community in their schools will recognise how challenging that is. And for a lot of our children, they weren't allowed to go to school in Czech or in Romania. Or they went to a special Roma school, which was underfunded and they didn't have toilets inside. Horrendous. So our parents come in and they don't want to come into the building. They feel like they can't be themselves, they feel like it's not space for them, they feel really challenged. So just being in the building is really difficult. So how do you get people to come to parents' evening, and how do you get people to come to open evenings and events and things like that? And you have to think creatively about how you make people feel that that is a space for them. It's also really important to recognise that just having a library next door doesn't mean people are going to access it. And sometimes you have to go out of your way to grab people by the hand, bring them in, and show them how to use something and show them that yes, it's for them. So then when we talk about curriculum design and what we do as teachers, in terms of the canon, which I have massive issues with, because it's so political and there isn't a right answer. Imagine a big list of stuff that we need students to know in order to be culturally wealthy or like primed for study. So there are lots of things that we would love in an ideal world, our kids to come into our lessons in September just already knowing, and then we can just, it's like a foundation and we can build on that, it's great. What do we class as being culturally rich? There's kind of like a high culture, low culture snobbery going on. So like, I really love going to like an open mic night in a pub and hearing a great folk singer sing, I love that. But that's not high culture. So, my family's Caribbean, we go to the Leeds West Indian Carnival every single year. I was always in the parade as a kid, like dancing, had feathers on, it was amazing, but that's not seen as high culture. It's not the kind of thing I could have put on my Oxford application. Oh yeah, I'm really well-rounded because I like wear a feather headdress and do some dancing. And actually, it's amazing, and it's a really skilled thing to do to make those costumes and to do the choreography and all those things, but it's not the kind of thing I can put on my application. So, the issue we've got is that somebody else has already decided what that canon is. Somebody else who will remain nameless. And actually, a lot of really good things were done with the curriculum changes, don't get me wrong. I just can't walk over here, but I'm just going to stay over here, yeah? I love the level of challenge. I love the fact that it's closed book, don't throw anything at me. I love the fact that we have rigour and full Shakespeare text and all of those wonderful things. I also love the fact the coursework's gone, but I kind of wish we could make up for it in some other kind of redrafting, perfection, sculpting kind of way. But there are lots of issues with it because we have a massive gap in the curriculum that's been assigned to us, okay? And we need to make the opportunities that we do have count, okay? So, the best that's been thought and said, that's Matthew Arnold, has been quoted by Ofsted, but that's what cultural capital is, that's what we're supposed to do, what is the best that's been thought or said, and apparently that's entirely the domain of dead white men. There are lots of brilliant and talented dead white men who have written some amazing things and I love them all, but they are not the only thing. that exists out there in the world. So one of the greatest writers alive at the moment, I would say, is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, amazing, amazing, amazing Nigerian writer. If you haven't read anything by her, you need to, because it will open your eyes. She's amazing. Started Purple Hibiscus. Beautiful, beautiful. But she talks about how she grew up in Nigeria as the child of two very middle class, very, very well educated parents. Her dad was an academic at university. And all the things she ever read as a child were white British literature classics. So she read lots of Ian Blyton and things. And she only realised kind of later on that she was reading stories about snow and ginger beer, and she'd never seen snow before in her entire life. And she wasn't ever reading anything by Nigerian people because the culture in Nigeria had been so suppressed by the British Empire that it wasn't acceptable culturally as a Nigerian middle-class educated person to read Nigerian writers. It wasn't a thing because it wasn't cultured enough. And that's really dangerous. It's a really, really damaging thing to be told that your culture, your kind of first language is devalued. So Adichie writes about her own experiences in Nigeria. They are absolutely beautiful novels. But it's really, really important that we recognise that there is more that's been thought or said that's of value, that is of worth, that is something that we should be exploring with our children than just Shakespeare and Dickens. And I love Shakespeare and Dickens. I love Shakespeare more than Dickens, not gonna lie. Rather not teach Dickens, if I'm honest. But that's a personal thing. I think he's great, but not me. So, really, really important. If you're a school leader, how do you know that what is being covered by your English department wasn't covered at primary school? It's not that hard to go out to your local feeder schools and say, can I please have a list of all the texts you teach in Key Stage 2? Because that's the only way I managed to get my colleague to scrap Boy and Shrek dramas. Because they did it in year 5. Why are we doing it in year 8? Waste of time. Is it challenging? How do you know it is challenging? You need to prove that this is challenging work. What are you covering outside the GCSE curriculum? That's a really difficult question to ask, and I ask it all the time. I land manage all of humanities and art, and I regularly speak to those subject leaders and say, what are you doing outside the curriculum in year 10 and 11? What else are you doing? Because the curriculum is not everything. I know you haven't got a lot of time, but what else are you doing? How are you enhancing it? Is this the best that has been thought or said? Can you justify your curriculum decisions? And what development plans have you got, and how can I help? And that's really, really important. Leaders shouldn't be saying, you need to do all these things, and then leave. You should be doing, let's do these things. What do you need? Let me help you. Do you need a course? Do you need me to get some experts in? Do you need me to get someone in to help you with this, this and this? It needs to be supported. Subject leaders, sit down and make a list of all the things that your department thinks is the best that's been heard of, thought or said. People read and have different interests, and that's really important. Find the gaps. In GCSE, the language paper gives you so many opportunities to just use lots and lots and lots of different texts. Don't be lazy and just use the stuff you know, because generally the stuff we study as English degrees is dead white men. So let's go outside ourselves and find some other stuff. There's loads and loads of other good stuff. Key Stage 3, I'm going to whiz through this because I'm running out of time. But please, please, please don't start Key Stage 4 early. Please see Key Stage 3 as the beautiful, magical opportunity that it is, and use it properly. Make it amazing, make it aspirational, make it ambitious, fill it with all the stuff that you can't do at GCSE. We've all seen this graph before, really important. Disadvantaged kids need good teaching more than non-disadvantaged kids. They really, 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 really need it. So, all of this crap that we've been sold for years and years and years, all complete rubbish, goes to the classroom, don't think so. The learning pyramid, you remember 95% of what you teach other people. It's not true, it's complete lies. That is based on the worst kind of research. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first 3 bits are kind of based on some half-decent but a bit dodgy research. The other 2 are just made up. I'm just like, I think it needs 5. I think a good pyramid needs 5. So we just need 2 more. What can they do? Rubbish. Left brain, right brain, absolute nonsense. I can't do it because I'm like a left brain kind of thinker. So I need you because you're good at maths. Ridiculous. Brain gym. I was in a primary school the other day and they'd spent like £15,000 on brain gym posters, which were just pictures of kids who had stood up and gone like this, and then sat down again, and that helped. So bad, so bad. So there's lots and lots of snake oil out there. There are lots of things being sold to schools as a solution to the fact that we have one of the hardest jobs in the whole world. It's so hard. And because people are struggling, it's easy for people to sell crap to us. And we go, yeah, okay, that's great, I'll give you some money and then that'll fix everything for the kids. It doesn't work. And that's why things like InkChat were born. InkChat is probably the predecessor to Team English. I was lucky enough to be sitting on Anne Williams's living room floor with a pizza the first time there was an InkChat. She set it up, she's an absolute legend. And we sat there and we used the hashtag and it was the first one and it was amazing. InkChat gave people a space to start talking and English teachers are amazing at that. Obviously Team English is an anecdote to all of these horrible things, all the snake oil, all the depression, all the stress. Lit Drive is, I mean, just, I can't, praise be to Cat Howard, praise be. What an amazing woman. Cat Howard. So please tweet her, she's amazing. And I'm just going to leave you with this. All of those wonderful things are things that we have done as a professional body to replace the fact that we don't have local authorities anymore, to replace the fact that we don't have a space that's shared anymore, to replace the fact that people don't respect us but we respect each other and ourselves, so let's just use what we have as a grassroots organisation of professional people. So words enable us to describe, to explore, to define, challenge and create the world around us. That's what great writers do. That's what they're trying to do when they write. And I think it's really important that if you can teach children to use words, to understand words, to interpret words, then you can literally change everything. Say literally, figuratively, change everything. And no, literally, change everything. I think that's so important and that's what this is about today. So have an amazing conference.